Hi all, I'm going to look at Kasparov versus Korchnoi, round 11. So Kasparov playing white played d4, and Korchnoi played knight f6, and Kasparov now played c4. Korchnoi steered for a Nimzo-Indian defence with his next move by playing e6, and after knight c3, Korchnoi pins Kasparov's knight. So we have the mainline King's Indian. Kasparov played Queen c2, which is the classical variation, favoured but recently by Morozevich. After d5, Kasparov took on d5 and Korchnoi recaptured. Kasparov now played bishop g5. Korchnoi attacked that bishop with h6, and after bishop h4, he now played c5, which is quite interesting. In more recent times, Nigel Short has played this variation with black against both Karpov and Kasparov. He had a very quick loss against Karpov after g5 when we had this sequence. After bishop g3, knight e4, Karpov played e3, and after queen a5 played knight ge2, which caused a lot of trouble for Nigel Short. So after bishop f5, Karpov simply played bishop e5, not concerned about knight takes c3 and unpinning a check, unleashing a check if the knight moved after queen takes f5. So knight e4 check, simply Karpov played knight c3, and the game continued like this. So Karpov had temporarily sacked a piece on e5, which he was later to regain with this final check here, because if king e7, then check, followed by bishop takes c6 check, winning back material and being several pawns up. So in this final position, Short had resigned, but against Kasparov he had much better luck, and people thought it was preparation. After bishop g3, knight e4, e3, queen a5, Kasparov played actually bishop e5 against Short in 1993. And after castles, bishop d3, Short played knight c6, and after bishop takes e4, Short sacrificed the d5 pawn with this sequence, just to play bishop g4 here with a lot of counterplay. Kasparov played knight f3, and after bishop takes on f3, bishop takes, knight takes f3, gf, rook c8. A draw was very soon agreed after castles here. In fact, this was the final position. So Short favoured g5. Seems to be an aggressive idea, this g5. But Korchnoi actually castled. And this seemed to give Kasparov a very easy game. First he just played bishop d3, not concerned about knight takes c5. Korchnoi played queen a5. And after knight ge2, now Korchnoi took on c3, and Kasparov didn't mind the trade of queens, because after knight takes c5 he could nicely retreat his bishop back to c2, and I believe white has several trumps in this position. As well as the two bishops, black has the isolated d-pawn, and white can comfortably also just castle queenside to easily exert more pressure on the d5 pawn. After g5, black is also weakening his king side a little bit and enabling white to play a later h4. So I'm not sure this was the greatest way to play the variation as black. After f3, a6, Kasparov played h4, and his positional trumps seem to be increasing. So he peels open the h-file a little bit and now castles queenside, and white would seem to have a very fine position. He now played king b1 just to get his king out of this c line and start using these pieces. The bishop goes to b3 to target that isolated d-pawn. And now Korchnoi plays rook c5, which allowed a very simple looking but very effective move by Kasparov, just e4, opening up the position more and exposing even more weaknesses in black's position. After d takes e4, Kasparov played bishop takes e6 and knight takes e4, targeting c5 and g5. Korchnoi felt the need to keep the rook on the 5th rank, he played the awkward looking rook a5, and the end is nearly there in this game, believe it or not. Kasparov played rook he1, a powerful centralising move, now threatening knight d6 and rook takes e6. After knight f8 he played knight d6, targeting as well the b6 pawn now. So even though black's defending e6, there's a lot of horrible weaknesses in black's position still. Korchnoi plays b6, and now Kasparov plays bishop f2, so a new target of attack, the b6 pawn. After knight d5, Kasparov now switches his attention to Korchnoi's king. He simply plays bishop d4 check, and after king g6, believe it or not, after the next move, which was knight c4, Korchnoi resigned. So why did Korchnoi resign here? Let's say rook b5, then knight e5 check, king f5, if the king didn't want to have the indignity of a discovered attack. But now this is a kind of mating net that white can weave, sucking the black king in with these checks, until there's a rook d3 with rook f3, which is very, very difficult to parry without giving up material. So what a devastating defeat of Korchnoi in this round. After this knight c4, black's king was just shot to pieces, the king's safety. So let's have a look in overview and summary of this game, which on the surface seemed very simple. Maybe Korchnoi had played the opening very passively with this early castling. Kasparov didn't mind the exchange of queens later, because he had a very nice solid advantage and targets of attack, not just peeling open the h-file but the isolated d-pawn. So all he needed to do was castle queenside and then manoeuvre some pieces to attack, first d5, and then later open up the position a little bit with this e4 to expose even more weaknesses. So it was a very instructive way of just increasing advantages, and another kind of dispositional win for Kasparov in this tournament. So this knight c4 was the final devastating move. I hope you enjoyed that game, and please leave any questions or queries on YouTube. Thanks very much.